Hey, Dr. Smith, here's my video journal for this week. It is October 10th. Um, so, just a couple things that I wanted to talk about this week. One would be um, our reading of Erasure by Percival Everett. I think it's been a really interesting book, and when I first started reading it, I didn't think I would like it, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. It was tough to find sort of the humor in it in the beginning, or to sort of see how it's relating when I first started reading. But as I progressed through the book, it really started to show out. I think one of the main reasons I find it so entertaining, or so, it's not really like a ha funny like we always talk about, but it definitely has a component of absurdity to it. Every time I just keep reading more and more, it just gets more and more absurd, especially with my pathology part of it. But overall, it's been a really great read, and I think one of the most interesting parts, or just most interesting aspect of it, rather, because it's a pretty prominent theme throughout, is that idea of that cultural appropriation we've been talking about. And I think it's not so clear in the book. Well, maybe it is, but it took me a while to pick up on it. But the idea that so Thelonious Monk is pretty frustrated with the fact that Juanita Mae Jenkins had written that book, and that the fact that it's been selling so well. I think what he's trying to get at is that whole idea of the consumer really looking for and really wanting and eating up the idea of a book that's like authentically black. I know we hate talking about authenticity, but in this regard, I think just the title and the bits and pieces of the content of the book by Juanita Mae Jenkins, the Weeze lives in the ghetto sort of thing, even though she only visited Harlem for 4 days, actually from Ohio, that sort of thing, went to a school in Ohio and everything, Oberlin I think it was. So that idea that this book is selling so well and is sort of like just absurd. That's the only way I can sort of describe the whole situation. Is really interesting and sort of thought-provoking part of that book, as well as the fact that Thelonious Monk's work, which do seem, well, overly complicated in my opinion, but at least well thought out, and like super intelligent, just way too like super intelligent. That's why they're never selling. But it's sort of that weird interplay between what consumers want and sort of like the process that goes into each of those works. And you would think that with how much work and how much intelligence goes into Thelonious Monk's work, they would buy that book, but instead the opposite's the case. So that's been pretty interesting. Another thing, I know this is sort of like I don't know, I try not to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I really did enjoy doing the presentation. I hadn't seen Do the Right Thing before I did it, and I can't believe I haven't, since it's watching movies is one of my favorite things to do. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to watch it here and sort of present on it. Really a great film, and I wish I could have talked about it for the whole entire class period and probably even longer. Just a real rich and dense movie with a lot of different stuff in it, and I'm really happy I got to watch it. And with the things that have been going on, like we talked about today in class, in the past couple months in this city, it's it obviously stands the test as a timeless sort of piece, and so I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to sort of watch it and gain some from it. And then I'll be exploring some of Spike Lee's other work too now, I think. And then lastly, I'm glad we talked today with Will's presentation on Moms Mabley, sort of the idea of, we're getting more into the idea of that intersectionality piece that we always talk about. So the idea that Moms was, well, black woman, and then, like, as we discussed, the lesbian too. I think all of those different parts really play into sort of her performance. And when Will asked if we thought that her work was indeed black comedy based on what we saw, I think based on what we saw, without any sort of discussion, my initial thought would have been no. I was thinking the same way we thought of, I'm having trouble with his name now, but the guy that did the stand-up piece on when he was in New Orleans with the parade, I sort of thought the same way. Like, if it was you know, a white woman putting on that same performance, would it be just as funny? But I think when I thought about that, I didn't speak in class because I was still uh, processing internally. But I sort of thought of like what you said, and I agreed with you. The idea that although like the content would be the same and it would still be objectively as funny, sort of like the way we perceive it would have been different based on the person's sort of identity. I think it would have had a very different feel to it. And then I think what we talked about with the whole idea of gender and sexuality and sort of like the life that she lived, which obviously was a very difficult and pain-filled one, and still sort of putting on that mask and all these different masks, I would say for sure that her work can be considered black comedy. So I think that's all I have for today, but I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.